All right, so our next lesson is going to be angles of elevation and depression. Okay, so an angle of elevation, so say you're this person down here at the bottom, and you have to look up to this air balloon, okay? So that is considered an angle of elevation because you're going to have to look up, okay? This angle goes up this way, okay? Now, on the contrary, what if you were this person in the air balloon and you had to look down at the person on the ground, okay? This is considered an angle of depression because you have to look down, okay? So here it says classify each angle as angle of elevation or depression, okay? So first, they're showing us this angle in here. So this is a person, they're having a look up at the airplane, so this is considered elevation. Okay, on this next one, they are showing us here angle 2. Okay, so this angle right here, this is a person at the top of a cliff. They're having a look down at the sailboat. So because they're looking down, this is depression. Depression. Okay. This next one, so this one we have two different angles. Let's go ahead and start with the person that's at the top of the building. Okay, this is angle 3. So this is his line of sight, and they're having to look down. Okay, so because they have to look down, this angle, angle 3, is an angle of depression. Depression. Okay, and then if you're the person on the ground, this would be your line of sight. And so if you have to look up, this is your angle of elevation. Elevation. Okay. And then the next one, okay, so say you are this bird, okay, and this bird, this is a regular line of sight, and they're having to look down at the lighthouse. So this is considered an angle of depression. Okay, and then what if, okay, you're the person in the lighthouse and you're having to look up at the bird, okay, that is considered elevation. Elevation. Okay. Now, you can also be in the lighthouse and be looking down at the sailboat. So if you have to look down at the sailboat, this is considered an angle of depression. Depression. All right. And then next, if you are this person in the sailboat and you're having to look up at the lighthouse, okay, so that means that this is an angle of elevation. Okay, so now that we learned how to identify angles of elevation and depression, here's the next problem. It says a person snorkeling sees a turtle on the ocean floor at an angle of depression of 38 degrees. So whenever you have an angle of depression here, so here's the line of sight of this person snorkeling, and this is the angle of depression. So when you have the angle of depression, we can actually transfer that angle over here. Okay, so this angle is 38 degrees. Now, how do I know this? This is your, if you recall from a previous lesson, when you have two parallel lines put by a transversal, these are equivalent because they're alternate interior angles. So that's why, just in case you don't remember that lesson, that's why this one is 38 degrees. Okay, so now that this is 38 degrees, they want us to know how far from the turtle is she round to the nearest foot. Okay, so we're looking for x. X happens to be the hypotenuse of our triangle. They give us 14, which is opposite our angle. So OH is going to, remember we're going back to SOHCAHTOA, SOHCAHTOA. So because we have O and H, that means that we're going to be using the sine function. So it's going to be sine of 38 degrees equals our opposite, which is 14, over our hypotenuse. We have it as x. Okay, we go ahead and put this over 1 and cross multiply. And we get x times sine of 38 equals 1 times 14 is 14. Then next, we're going to go ahead and divide by sine of 38 to solve for x. Sine of 38 divided by sine of 38. So remember, when you do this, your calculator does need to be in degree mode because it's giving your units in degrees. So here we're going to get x equals, and then let me go ahead and make sure that my calculator is in degrees, and then I'm going to punch in 14 divided by sine of 38. And that gives me 22.7. Okay, but they want us to round to the nearest foot, so 23. Alrighty, let's go ahead and look at the next problem. So it says here, Lisa sees a bird's nest high in a tree. She decides to use trigonometry to estimate how high the nest is. Okay, so here it says Lisa walks 15 feet from the base of the tree. So this is 15 feet, which they already have measured for us, or they already have labeled for us. Now she measures the angle of elevation from the ground to the nest as 62 degrees, which they also have labeled for us. And then they ask us, how high is the nest above the ground? So here's a nest, and we're looking for how high, so we're looking for this side right here, okay? This one happens to be opposite this angle that was given. And then they give us this side right here, which is my adjacent side. Okay, so then which trig function is O and A? If you remember, let me go ahead and write it out. SOHCAHTOA. AH, sorry, my pen's glitching. All right, so then that means that we're going to use our tangent function. So it's going to be tangent of 62 degrees equals, our opposite goes first, we don't know what it is, so let's call it x, over our adjacent we know is 15. Okay, we put this over 1 and cross multiply, and we get 15 times tangent of 62 equals x. So then I'm going to go ahead and put that in my calculator, and that gives me 28.2. And they want us to round to the nearest foot, so that would be 28 feet, sorry. Okay, the next part says Lisa spots the mother bird on a branch above the nest. She measures the angle of elevation to the bird of 67 degrees. Find how high the mother bird is above the ground. Okay, so she ends up seeing this little mother bird a little bit higher. So let's just pretend this is a bird. Okay, and so the angle of elevation now ends up being a little bit bigger because she has to look higher, and they say that it is 67. Okay, we're still looking for the opposite because we still want to know how high is the bird. Okay, we still know that we're standing in the same place, so we're still 15 feet away. The only thing is that this triangle is slightly bigger. Okay, so we're still using tangent. So tangent of, this time we're using 67 degrees equals our opposite, we don't know, over adjacent, which is 15. So we put this over 1 and cross multiply, and we get 15 times tangent of 67 equals x. And that gives me 35.3. Okay, and it wants us to round to the nearest foot, so that would be 35 feet. I'm sorry, this, I shouldn't have gone so far out. It should only stop right here. Oh, sorry, it was bothering me. Okay, there you go. Now the next one is, what is the distance between the mother bird and the nest? So we are looking for the distance between the mother bird and the nest, which is this little section here. So the mother bird is 35 feet high. Okay, the nest is 28 feet high. So we're going to go ahead and subtract those. Now I got those two numbers from right here, from these two sections. When I subtract them, that is going to give me 7 feet. Okay, so they are 7 feet away from each other. Okay, this next one says, find the angle of elevation to the top of a tree for an observer who is 31.4 meters from the tree if the observer's eye is 1.8 meters above the ground and the tree is 23.2 meters tall. So let me go ahead and draw this. So we have a tree. So let me draw a little tree right here. Oh. Okay, so it wants us to find the angle of elevation. So we're looking for the angle for an observer who is 31.4 meters away from the tree. So this from here to here is going to be 31.4. Okay. If the observer's eye is 1.8 meters above the ground, so here's my observer. Okay, here's his eyes. And so from here to here is 1.8 meters. Okay. And the tree is 23.2 meters tall. So this tree from here to here is 23.2 meters tall. Okay, so then since this is his line of sight right here, I'm going to go ahead and subtract the 23.2 and the 1.8 because that's where his eye is. So 23.2 minus 1.8, that gives me 21.4. Okay, so this right here, after we subtracted this opposite side, is actually 21.4. 21.4, which is opposite my angle because I'm looking for my angle of elevation. This side right here is going to be my adjacent side. So then that means I'm going to use tangent of x equals my opposite, which is 21.4, over my adjacent, which is 31.4. And then to solve for x, I'm going to go ahead and use the inverse tangent. Okay, that cancels. And then I'm going to plug that into my calculator. Inverse tangent of 21.4 divided by 31.4. And that gives me 34.27. So x equals, if I'm rounding to the nearest degree, that would round to 34 degrees. Okay, the last one, it says Shane is 61 feet high on a ride in an amusement park. The angle of depression to the park entrance is 42. So remember, if it comes along this line, then I follow it along this one, and that means that this angle in here is also 42 degrees. Okay. The angle of depression to his friend standing below is 80 degrees. Okay. So here from here all the way to here is going to be 80 degrees. So that means when I follow along this line here, this angle right there is 80 degrees. So it doesn't really fit. I'm just going to write it here to the side. But that's that angle right there. Okay, so across that angle is a 61 feet, which is the opposite. Now we are looking for the distance between the friends and the entrance, okay? But that's not the whole triangle. So what we're going to do is we're going to find this side right here from the entrance to the top of the ride. And then we're going to find the little section right here. And then once we subtract them, then that's when we get our answer, okay? So I have my opposite. We're looking for, this is my adjacent. AD. Okay, so that means I'm going to use tangent. I'm going to do the first one, which is a 42 degrees, equals my opposite, which is 61, over my adjacent. We don't know. Let's call it x. Okay, I'm going to put this over 1 and cross multiply, and we get x times tangent of 42 equals 61. We divide by tangent of 42, and that gives me 61 divided by tangent of 42. Let me go ahead and punch that in. 67.7 feet. Okay, now let's find this little tiny distance right here. So on there, this time I'm still using tangent, but this time my angle is degrees. So it's equal to my opposite, which is 61, over my hypotenuse, over my adjacent, we don't know, we're calling it x. We put this over 1 and cross multiply, and we get x times tangent of 80 equals 61. We divide both sides by tangent of 80. This cancels, and I'm going to get x equals 61 divided by tangent of 80 this time. It gives me 10.76. Okay, so now for me to find this tiny little section, or the distance from the friends to the entrance, I'm going to subtract those. So 67.7 minus 10.76 That is going to give me 56.99. So that's going to be, or that's going to round to 57 feet. And that's it. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. We will see you guys next time. Bye.